Now what do we have here? Could this be the new Jeep Compass before it's actually unveiled? Yes, it is. I think it looks pretty cool. This is someone at Stellantis or Jeep leaked these photos. Someone is getting fired for sure, but it's cool to see it before the official launch here. I think it looks very cool. I did like the old design as well, though. I thought that was a very handsome looking little SUV, I guess. I don't. What's the difference between SUV and crossover? I never really understood that. All the segments these days just morph together. It fries my brain to think about all the different segments that we have. But I had one design feature of the old one that I really liked. We're going to talk about that when we jump in Photoshop. Compare, of course, the new to the old, as we always do here. And then we also have a photo of the interior, which has some great news to it as well. I'm sure you can figure out what that could be. So before we jump into Photoshop here, let's see what this is all about from Car Scoops again. Article linked down below. It's not going to be a very long video, this. But let's have a look at this. New Jeep Compass brakes cover before you're supposed to see it. Someone messed up. Will be available in fully electric form as well as a hybrid and plug-in hybrid powertrain options. First photos of the new Jeep Compass gives an early look of its boxy modern design. And look at this. It looks very, very nice to me. I think it looks handsome and stately, a lot more stately than the previous one. And they say that this green one right here is most likely the full EV version, which is again very nice looking EV. Thankfully, it's boxy EVs are in style now instead of the first generation of EVs, mass-produced EVs that look like a blob. Boxier design compared to its predecessor, of course, and steps onto a new Stellantis platform offering a range of powertrain options. This lime green version is likely the fully electric model as indicated by the E emblem on the tailgate. Meanwhile, the white model sporting black accents and a distinctive front skid plate might be the rugged Trailhawk trim. So we still have that one, which is also great to see. We also get a first look at the interior, where the new design features a large infotainment screen. I don't think it looks too large here. The integration looks decent to me because, as you can see, it doesn't stick up above the dash, and that is what I want to see. I like the angle on it as well, and the trim here looks beautiful. We're going to have a look at this more in a minute. So it's positioned above a row of buttons and a rotary knob. Thank you, Jeep, for keeping the physical knobs and buttons alive in your interiors. I think it is a trend that is slowly starting to come back because a lot of people are complaining about these touch situations that we have. So we have the physical knobs and button intact here. Great to see that. The center console and dashboard are highlighted by an aluminum style accents and what looks like plenty of storage compartments. Great. I really like this interior. I think it looks beautiful. It looks like a high-end vehicle to me. Of course, they can tweak the images to make them look a little bit more, luxurious and classy for the press photos here. So this seems to be a high-spec model, complete with a double sunroof. You can see it up here. Cool. Not that I care about sunroofs, since my traumatic experience with our old Volkswagen Tiguan started leaking. Rain came in into the door panels, down into the floor, and created mold inside of the entire car. So I thought, is it really worth to have a sunroof if this could potentially happen to your car? Absolutely not. And it's also a lot cozier to not have a sunroof, in my opinion. So we have leather upholstery, head-up display. You can see the head-up display here as well, and contrasting stitching. Beautiful Jeep. Features, so the design here features sharply defined fenders and modern styling touches, including crisp LED lights and ultra-slim intakes on the front bumper. The SUV stance is further enhanced by boxy wheel arches, which we want to have on Jeep, and generous plastic cladding. Of course, shorter front and rear overhang make the Compass look more nimble compared to the outgoing model. Does it though? Does the boxy shape make it look more nimble, or does the more organic shape like we had in the previous one make it more nimble? I'm not sure. I'm honestly not to think about it. Is organic more nimble than a box? Probably. I mean, in my opinion, yeah, probably. So to set the Compass apart, the Jeep is likely to add more off-road oriented features to higher trims, particularly the Trailhawk. Jeep has promised an expanded engine range with e-hybrid plug-in, and a fully electric option for the new Compass. I think this is great. I like these e-hybrids because I've had a bunch of them to review here, and every time I get one, I'm just amazed at how convenient it is. When you come home, you plug it in, and when you start it up next time, you're gonna have 40-50 miles of EV range before the gas engine starts up. Increases the range, and it's also, I don't know, it just feels like a very good solution to a regular powertrain. And you could also potentially have non-electrified gasoline powertrains outside of Europe. Now, looking at these two here, we have the fully electric here looking very nice. I do like the color here, and this is probably the Trailhawk that we're talking about, the white one with the skid plate underneath. At least some of the powertrain options will offer all-wheel drive. Obviously, I mean, it is a Jeep. The electric Compass could push out up to 321 horsepower from dual electric motor, and battery capacity 73 kilowatt hour or 97 kilowatt hour. Now, the production of the new Compass is supposed to begin in Italy in late 2025. I did not know. I mean, yes, Fiat, Stellantis, they probably have a bunch of manufacturing facilities in Italy, I guess, but it's kind of strange to have a Jeep manufacturer in Italy. I think this is going to be more angle toward the European market, even though we're going to get it here eventually. Although North American models were originally set to roll off the line in Canada starting in 2026, it's probably been delayed thanks to the tariffs that we have going on. So let's just go through these images here real quick before jumping into Photoshop. And I want to hear your opinion. Do you think this looks better than the current Compass, which again, I think it's a handsome looking design? This one feels bigger because of the boxiness that we have. The side view looks great. The rear end graphics look great as well. We have this blue one. I'm not entirely sure what type of trim this is. Probably a plug-in hybrid or something like that. And we have the wheel design here with the fully electric version. Electric version, the thing about the front end, it doesn't really look like an electric car because it still looks like this is a grille, but it's probably covered up here. I do like these small LEDs that we have above these 7 slots that we have on, Jeep signature grille, and these slots in the headlights. This creates a super distinct daytime run light, specifically at night, and that is, of course, a key ingredient. If you want to create a good car design with a great identity and DNA, you want it to be identifiable at night as well to the specific brand, or even better, the brand and a specific model, which I think Jeep has done well here. Looking at the rear end of the electric version here, look at the plantedness. Almost looks like an old BMW X5 E53 here with these big fenders, shoulders that we have. Plantedness on point from Jeep. Looking great. So let's jump into Photoshop here and have a look at this design and what is going on with this. So on the left side, we do have the old one, or the current Jeep Compass right here. As I said, I think it looks great. It has a very nice design to it. Looks like almost like they shrunk down a Cherokee, and that is not a bad thing at all, because we have a separation of the key graphics in the front end. We have sort of a dual grille here, one in the middle, and then you have a second grille in the lower section, in addition to the top grille up here. Many grills going on in the Compass. Looking at the new one here, you can see that it got a lot more boxy, and I really dig that because it's a Jeep. I want Jeep to go back to more of this functionality, almost industrial looking design. They say that this is probably the Trailhawk because they had, maybe you can't see the badges here on the rear end, but they said that the white is probably the Trailhawk. They said also that this has a skid plate underneath, which is great to see. Very rugged bumper here, functional bumper. It looks to be plastic as well. What we want to see, if you're going on trails, you don't want the lower pieces of the vehicle body to be scratched up and stuff like that. You can see that we have, I think this is maybe plastic as well in the front end, and this is not. I don't think the Trailhawk is supposed to be a full EV. But if you look at the grille here, it looks like it has the same grille like we have on the EV, meaning that it's all covered up here. I do like the headlight design, again, with the main headlight sitting up here, not down here in the bumper. Never really been a fan of bumper headlights. I can't think of any model, I don't think, that looks good with bumper headlights instead of having, regular headlights like this. We have LED fog lights down here, looking very rugged. I wish we had a little bit more aggressive a tire setup for the Trailhawk. But other than that, very, very stylish, clean-looking design. Looking at the side views here, this is where you can clearly see the more organic shape for the current Compass right here, with these more angled features and soft volumes and surfaces that we have in the bodywork. This is the detail that I loved about the old Compass. The current one is this line that goes from the front greenhouse, this trim piece going in here, and then just dips down in this area and creates this wraparound feel into the rear window. It's a small detail that definitely sets this design apart, and I think it looks great. And also the wheel design looks great as well. And of course, looking at the new one, again, much more boxy right here. We have a very interesting shoulder line in this case, because it goes down from the A-pillar into the side, beautiful chamfer, and then dips down a little bit into, yes, the very, very corner of the taillight right there. Look at that. Then we have getting thicker in this area into a thinner piece here, creating some dynamic movement in this. We still have the two-tone design with the blacked out roof, as you can see right there, and a proper hood design. Even though this is an EV, we still have a box, a square for the front end, and that is what I want to see. It doesn't matter if it's an EV or not. I still want to have a properly defined bumper that sticks out just like this, straight out from the A-pillar. And this design in the lower section is also very beautiful. I like this line because this creates a much more dynamic feature in the lower section and gives some movement to the vehicle when it's standing still. And we also have some chamfers going around the wheel arches here, as you can see. Beautiful design overall. The wheel design, again, I wish the wheels were a little smaller and the tires a little bigger, a little bit more off-road worthy for the Trailhawk. Looking at the rear end, this is where the old one got a little bit anonymous to me. There's really nothing that stands out. It could be a GMC, it could be whatever. You can't really tell that this is a Jeep looking at the rear. And I think that is the case with the new one as well. It doesn't really have, Jeep has never really had a clear identity in the rear end when it comes to vehicles that are outside of the Wrangler. The Wrangler, of course, very easy to identify immediately when you see it. You know it's a Wrangler. But the rest of the lineup, in the front, it's very easy to see that it's a Jeep because of the grille. But in the rear, Jeep has never really had a strong identity in the rear. However, that doesn't mean that this is a bad-looking rear end. I do like the light bar. Light bar comes back. Even Jeep these days are slapping light bars on their cars. That is how big of a trend or strong a trend this still is to this day. But we have a nice chamfer here in the lower section, as you can see. Nice, not diffuser, but bumper down here as well, looking very rugged. Some tow hooks here for the Trailhawk, and of course the blacked out roof with this integrated spoiler up top. You can see that it's a wing here, and the air flows down here and shoots out underneath, looking very, very cool and beautiful. Now, looking at the interiors, this is, I think, one of the key elements that I like the most about the new Jeep. Just looking at this image right here, I think the interior looks beautiful. Even the old one looked very classy, and I can't believe that these type of interiors these days are outdated and getting replaced. This looks like a very modern looking interior to me that hasn't been around for too long, but this is getting replaced in 2026. But I do think the integration of the screen here was not as good as it is in the new one, and that is a very, very uncommon thing to see, to have the new model have a better integration of the screen than the old model. Usually, as you know, we get 50-inch screens now, but in this case, I think they actually made an improvement with the screen integration. However, I can't tell if we still have a look at how beautiful this housing is. This is a classic design for a housing for a gauge cluster, and how deep the gauge cluster sits in the dash. We still had the physical knobs and buttons right there. Looking at the new one here, I can't really tell. Do we have a housing for the gauge cluster, or is it just like flat like this? I can't tell, because it should probably stick up something like this if we were to have a housing for it. But I can't see from this angle if we in fact have a housing for it or not. But I'm sure we have a gauge cluster of some sort. We sort of have to have that in a Jeep Compass. You can see the head-up display unit right here, and the integration of the infotainment screen looking way better and flatter, sitting lower down, more horizontal, which looks great. And of course, we still have this little control panel down there for the climate settings, which is great to see that we still have that. And a massive shelf for your passenger right here to store whatever they want. This looks to have an angle to it, so things are not going to slide done when you're flooring your new Jeep Compass, things flying in the face of the passengers. That's not something we want, so we want to have an angle on that. Seats look great as well. It looks, again, to me, this interior looks like a very high-end looking interior. And so did the old one. I don't know if it's just the photos, the skills of the photographer or whatever, but it's very exciting to see this design. I think Jeep is heading in the right direction. They did pretty much everything right with this design, and I'm looking forward to seeing this out on the streets whenever we get this in the US.